Here's the pitch that gets thousands of people to quit their job every year. Design a hoodie, get it made for $12, sell it for $60. That's an 80% margin, this on paper, before you've spent a dollar on anything else. Most industries would kill for numbers like that. And it's true, it's also almost meaningless because that 80% is measuring exactly one moment in a long chain of moments. And almost everything that actually decides whether this business survives happens somewhere else in that chain quietly where nobody's watching. So if the markup is this generous, why do most new fashion brands disappear within 3 years? Let's follow the money. In 2012, a 19-year-old in Birmingham, England started printing logos onto gym clothes by hand in a garage. That brand became Gymshark. By 2020, it was worth over $1 billion. In that same stretch of years, hundreds of nearly identical activewear brands opened stores on Shopify with the same rough margins on paper. Almost none of them made it. Part of why this keeps happening is that the barrier to entry has basically disappeared. Anyone can open a store in an afternoon, and in 2022 alone, over 1.7 million new clothing stores launched worldwide. Most never crossed 100 total sales. Same industry, same math on the label, wildly different outcomes. That gap is what this video is actually about. Let's be fair to the industry first. Direct-to-consumer fashion brands really do report gross margins in the range of 65 to 75%. That part isn't a trick. But gross margin only measures the cost of making the item. It says nothing about the cost of getting that item into a stranger's hands and back out again if they don't want it. Once you follow the money past that first number, most of those same brands end up keeping less than 10% net profit. Some never get there at all. One number tells you what you charged. The other tells you what you kept. Let's walk that $12 hoodie to your customer's door. It starts in a factory in Bangladesh or southern China where $12 is the landed cost, the number every new founder falls in love with because it's the only number they've looked at so far. But a hoodie doesn't teleport. Ship it by sea, and you're paying $4 to $6 a unit with a transit time of 20 to 40 days. Need it faster? Air freight runs $8 to $15, sometimes more. Import duties on apparel run 16 to 32%, adding another $3 to $5. Storage and fulfillment adds $2.50 to $5 more. And the moment a customer pays, the payment processor takes about 3% instantly, a bit over $2 on a $60 sale. Add packaging, a return label tucked inside just in case, and a small reserve for damaged returns, and the $12 hoodie has quietly become a $30 to $40 hoodie before a single cent has gone toward telling anyone it exists. And speaking of returns, clothing sold online gets sent back 20 to 40% of the time versus 5 to 9% in a physical store. When it comes back, you don't get the shipping, the payment fee, or the packaging cost refunded to you. You absorb every bit of it. If the product itself eats up more than half the $60 price tag, what's left is thin. And the biggest expense hasn't even shown up yet. This is where most brands actually die, not in the factory, in the advertising account. In 2015, it cost a clothing brand around $12 to acquire a customer through social media ads. By 2024, that same customer costs $30 to $60, sometimes more. A big reason, in April 2021, Apple let iPhone users switch off ad tracking, and roughly 3 out of 4 did. Advertising platforms lost the ability to tell who was actually likely to buy something, so brands had to spend 2 to 3 times more to land the same sale. Now run the real math. A $60 hoodie landed cost around $35, leaves $25 that looks like profit. But if it cost $45 in advertising to bring that customer to your site, you didn't make $25. You lost $20 on the sale that was supposed to be your win. Cold traffic, people who've never heard of you, converts into a sale only 1 to 2% of the time. That means 98 to 99 cents of every ad dollar spent reaching new people produces no revenue at all. Here's the part that sounds backwards until you see the mechanism. Some of the biggest companies in the world got there by deliberately losing money on a customer's first purchase because the first order was never the goal. Every order after it is. This is called lifetime value. Lose $40 once, but earn a customer who buys 4 more times, and you haven't lost $40. You've made roughly 120. The tool that makes this work is email and text marketing, which can generate 30 to 40% of revenue for an established brand at almost no cost per message. The catch: repeat purchase rates in apparel cite around 20 to 30%. Most customers never give you the chance to email them twice. Here's something most first-time founders miss. Nobody is actually buying cotton. A plain hoodie can be made by 1,000 different factories for roughly the same price. What separates a $60 hoodie from a $12 one isn't the fabric. It's the story wrapped around it. Successful apparel brands spend 15 to 30% of total revenue on content. Photography, video, creative direction. A single professional shoot can run $2,000 to $15,000 for one drop, one moment of the story. Look at Supreme, a streetwear label that built a billion-dollar valuation almost entirely on scarcity and perception, not on any technical advantage in how the clothes were made. People weren't buying a logo t-shirt because it was well constructed. They were buying belonging. That's the paradox. The less functionally different your product is, the more expensive your branding has to become to make people care. A founder who thinks they're starting a clothing company slowly discovers they've actually started a media company that happens to sell clothing. And once you've built something people want to belong to, something else starts happening almost immediately. A trending design can show up copied in stores within 2 to 4 weeks. Fast fashion platforms upload thousands of new products a day, many of them lifted directly from small independent designers. Here's the part that surprises most founders. In the United States, clothing is treated as a useful article, and functional objects generally can't be copyrighted. A 2017 Supreme Court case drew the actual line. A graphic printed on a shirt can be protected. The cut and silhouette of the garment itself cannot. So a copycat pays nothing for the original design work, undercuts the price, and the original brand is left to discount or watch the moment pass. Even a genuinely successful design usually has a shelf life of only 3 to 6 months before knockoffs saturate the market. There's a quieter risk that kills more brands than any competitor ever will. Factories require minimum orders, often a few hundred units per design. Add multiple sizes and colors, and a small first order can turn into several thousand units. Tens of thousands of dollars sitting in a warehouse, waiting to become cash. If it doesn't sell as predicted, you can't wait it out. Rent is due. You liquidate at 50 to 80% off, just to free up cash. This exact scenario hit the industry hard in 2022, when brands overordered expecting pandemic-era demand to continue and were left holding warehouses full of stock nobody wanted. It isn't profit on paper that kills a clothing brand. It's running out of cash while waiting for that profit to actually arrive. Follow the dollar through the system, and a pattern shows up. Almost nobody else in the chain carries the risk the brand does. The ad platform gets paid, whether the ad converts or not. The payment processor takes its cut, whether the brand profited or lost money on that sale. The fulfillment company gets paid to store and ship the product regardless of whether it sells through. The factory gets paid up front, completely insulated from whether anyone ever buys what it made. The brand sits at the most exposed point in the entire chain. It absorbs the unsold inventory, the returns, the delays. Everyone upstream gets paid regardless of outcome. The brand only gets paid if everything downstream of the factory actually works. And if a brand survives all of this and actually starts to grow, here's the twist nobody warns you about. Growth is where most of these businesses actually break. Going from 100 orders a month to 10,000 doesn't make the business 10 times harder. It makes it exponentially harder, because every system that worked fine at a small scale starts to buckle. Returns become a genuine logistics operation. Advertising gets less efficient, not more, as the most interested buyers get exhausted, and platforms start showing your ads to people who care less. And all of it sits on top of a supply chain that can be disrupted by something completely outside your control. In 2021, the cost of shipping a standard container from China spiked from around $1,500 to more than $10,000 at the peak, leaving whole seasonal collections stranded at sea while rent and ad bills kept coming due. Growth doesn't fix the weak points in a business. It finds every one of them at once. Picture the optimistic version. A brand keeps landed cost under $35, keeps acquisition cost under $30, and gets real repeat business through email instead of paid ads. A brand doing $2 million a year in revenue might keep $150,000 to $200,000 after everything. Genuinely good, genuinely achievable. Now the realistic version, acquisition cost creeps to $50. Returns run 35% instead of 20. One bad inventory bet ties up $60,000 that gets liquidated at half price. That same brand doesn't net $200,000. It might net nothing or lose $50,000 to $100,000 in a single hard year, not from any one mistake, but from several ordinary risks landing wrong at once. The difference between the good year and the bad year isn't 10%. It's the difference between real profit and real loss, built entirely out of costs that never appear on the price tag of a hoodie. So the 80% margin printed on the label was never a lie. It was just never the whole story. The real business isn't the $12 it costs to make a hoodie or the $60 someone pays for it. It's everything quiet and unglamorous that happens in between. Clothing brands don't usually fail because people stop wanting clothes. They fail because somewhere between the factory and the customer's closet, the founder was still counting the 80%, while the business had already moved on to counting something else entirely.